Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the City Council meeting held February 3rd, 2025. I'd like to call this meeting to order and inform the public about the location of the Open Meeting Act posted in the council chambers and accessible to members of the public. At this moment, I'd like to offer a moment of silence followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance. This time, I'd like a motion to approve the consented, I'm sorry, roll call, please.
Grandquist.
Here.
Lawrence.
Here.
Webb.
Here.
McCarthy. Beckman.
Here.
Jensen.
Here.
Langy.
Here.
Hildebrand.
Here.
Mayor.
Here. This moment, I'd like a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
All right, I need a motion to approve the full agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the full agenda.
Second. All right, we have a motion, or a second. First, any discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
Moving on to the regular agenda, item number 14. Need a motion to consideration approval of mayor's appointment of Sue Beckman, Jeff Jensen, Jim Lange to the Railroad Transportation Safety District for a one-year term as required by state statute.
All of our consideration of the three council members to be on the Railroad Transportation Safety District.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I guess I'd like to address this. This was originally on the consent agenda, and I asked to have it pulled off. I was not notified, and I talked to Jeff and Jim, and nobody was notified of this appointment. And it's not that I have anything against the appointment, I just think that it could have been done in a little bit more considerate way. If you're a citizen and you apply for a board or a commission, and I did that once for planning commission, and the mayor called me at that time, Sue, and she said, hey, are you still interested? Here's what we do, here's when we meet. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do it, that'd be great. And none of us got notification. Now, Jim, I know, knows about it because he's served on it before. I got on the city website, I researched this thing, I couldn't find it anywhere. So I started Googling it, and I couldn't find it. And thank God Kylie came to my rescue and found me some minutes. And so it's there, but I've asked Shane if we could put this on the city website with every other board and commission we have, because it's not listed there. So I guess I just wanted to bring that to the attention. This is something that's not new. Evidently, it's been around for quite a few years, but it's just not even listed on our website. So I've asked that be brought forward to that format too. And I guess just to say in consideration, when the citizens get a call in or asked if they're interested, maybe it'd be nice if the council could have that same consideration.
Would you like to not, do you want to serve on this, or are you looking to
Yes,
step
no,
down?
I'd be happy to serve. I would just have liked to have maybe a call and say, hey,
Right.
this is just something we're doing.
Yeah, it fell through the cracks, is what happened. So I apologize for that. We'll try to do better in the future. Any other discussion? Anyone from the public have anything on this? Seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item number 15. Need a motion to approve January sales tax report. These will be November sales.
So move.
We have a,
Second.
okay. Any discussion? And that would be, we're going to direct this towards Randy.
Yes, Your Honor. When you first look at the report that's in the agenda packet, it probably looks like it's pretty bad news. It's a $1.163 million decrease, or $277,542 decrease. We had $1.1 million of sales tax. But that's misleading because we had a 45% increase last January. Don't know what caused that. I could speculate that it was an audit that was done of a business and they had to pay a lot of back sales tax, but I don't know that for sure. So when we put the budget together, we didn't budget a 45% increase. We normalized that. And when you compare our sales tax receipts to budget, we're actually 13.3% over budget. I think that's what you want to be looking at when you see how our sales tax is trending. So year-to-date, we're still down, but we're only down 3.65% compared to the 9.28% we were down at the end of December fiscal year-to-date. That's budget to actual, not budget, or not actual to actual because of that large spike we took out from last year. And we continue to follow the general trend of similar cities throughout the state. I include in the agenda packet in the staff memo what some of the similar cities are doing for January of this year. Columbus, for instance, was up 13.2% in their sales tax receipts from January of the prior year. Fremont, 10.3%, Grand Island, 11.92%, Hastings, 16.45%, Kearney, 5.74%, and I go on to continue to list more cities. Not all of them were up, but for the most part, they were up and up pretty healthy amounts. Trying to figure out what's going on. One thing I discussed last council meeting was it might have something to do with grain prices. I included a chart of the nearby futures contract for corn in the agenda packet. And you can see those corn prices bottomed out in August, and those August receipts are reflected in our August sales are reflected in our December sales tax receipts. So since then, corn prices have been in general trending up. And if low crop prices are a factor, that you would expect our sales tax receipts to maybe be turning around, which they have. Another big event that happened in early November was a general election. And so that took away a lot of uncertainty people had, and there's speculating that maybe the results of the general election or just not having that uncertainty anymore might have improved our people's feelings about spending money. But whatever's happening, it's happening throughout the state in general, not just for City of Norfolk. Having said that, we, as a staff, every year, not just this year, but every year at the beginning of the year, prioritize our capital outlay. Capital outlay is one of the things that are commonly looked at as far as being able to avoid expenditures when there's an economic downturn, when receipts are down, or for some reason you have unusually large expenditures. And we try to spread those capital expenditures throughout the year, relatively evenly throughout the quarter. If you don't do that, department division heads are usually wanting to get their capital outlay early in the year so they can have it and use it throughout the entire year. But if they do that, then when you have some reason when you need to defer those expenditures, most everything's already been spent and you can't use that technique to help level things out. So we do that every year, and Staff met several times last month to review those items, and we are deferring all except the more urgent capital outlay until we get a better feel for what's happening with our sales tax. We'll probably discuss this in more detail at the council retreat. And by the time we have the council retreat, we should have another month's sales information. And if it's what I'm thinking it is, or what I'm basically guessing it is, because I don't really know, if it is grain prices coming up that's helped, or if it is the election results that helped, or if it is both, I would expect we may have bottomed out and may see another up month in February. If February's down, then I probably guessed wrong and it's something else. But that's where we're at as far as action we've taken on to try and meet this sales tax problem. And it's looking a lot better now than it looked a month ago. Does that answer any questions?
Any questions for Randy? Any other discussion? Any discussion from the public? Right, seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
This time we'll move on to item number 16, motion to consideration of approval to award a contract to Rutchins Construction, Inc. of Tilden, Nebraska for the water pollution plant, screw pump lift station, and the flood berm project for the amount of $2,513,077.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Would this, Rob or Steve, who's going to address? Rob? Okay.
Rob Huntley, Superintendent of the wastewater plant. On January 9th, 2025, one bid was received from Rutchins Construction, Inc. Submitted a base bid in the amount of $2,458,500. There were some alternatives in there. Anyway, we wound up with $2,513,077. The city of Norfolk has received a Nebraska Emergency Management grant in the amount of $1,532,133.77 with a local match of $170,237.09. And that's for the flood wall proportion of it. This project is in the CCIP for fiscal year 2024 to 2025 and 2025 to 2026 with construction costs budgeted at $2,925,000. The engineer it was Olson's, and the city staff recommends approval of the contract with Rutchins Construction, Inc. for the water pollution control plant screw pump lift station flood berm project for the base bid of $2,513,077. Answer any questions around the flood wall and the screw pump?
Is there a reason why you comboed the bids together for both projects, or?
Yeah, so it's kind of the project is kind of all encompassing, so the flood wall protects the plant. Again, the plant sits between two rivers, so between the North Fork and the Elkhorn River. So some things can kind of happen there. Either river can knock us out. The other piece of it is to be able to push our effluent into the river. So if the river's up, if the North Fork is up, we have troubles getting our effluent into the river because the river levels are high. So to bring all this kind of together, obviously any water that's inside of the flood wall will be pushed out of there as well. And so that's why we put everything together.
Right. So, obviously the flood wall is a new portion of the project. We hadn't had a flood wall for all these years.
all
Is
these
there,
years. So, in 2019, we came within inches of taking the plant offline, and by got into our transformers and our MCCs, our motor control centers, we were dangerously close. And with the way things are now, to get those things back up and running could take who knows how much time now. You don't just get switch gears and transformers. And this will protect us. I mean, it's a 500 plus one, and going forward, I think this is a great project for us. It puts a lot of security in our plant. Obviously, the NEMA people also have looked at this as, they want these plants secure, so we have good effluent going to the river. It's a health and issue as well, so.
Rob, I do have a question for you.
Absolutely.
So the engineer's estimate obviously was quite a bit higher.
It was.
Why is this coming in lower? Are we taking anything out?
We have taken a look at some different pieces of this as well. Engineers or construction costs are kind of all over the place as well. But we have taken a look at, there was some concrete that we could salvage, moving the wall over. There's a few things that we're able to, some fencing and some of that things. So this is a project we've worked on for about 4 years, and we've really kind of dug into it to see where we can have any cost savings on it and still achieve the project.
so you mentioned that flood berm is puts you in the 500 year then. So
Yes.
what's that berm look like essentially?
So it basically just encompasses, if you've been out to the plant, we have the roads that go around the plant, so bring that up to that level. And then on the south side of the plant will be where this big screw's at, and that's where our effluent runs into a big 36-inch pipe there. Everything all comes together, and then it lifts and pushes it on out. So you kind of imagine a above-ground moat around us, so.
Okay. Any other questions?
So when will this all take place? How soon?
I assume they'll start pretty quick. The project, I believe, is due to button up in 26, March of 26, I believe is what the completion date,
About a
targeted
year.
completion date
Okay,
is, so.
okay.
I would think that this would go pretty fast, so a lot of dirt work, so.
Steve, was a lot of this covered by a grant? Was it like $1 million grant in this, or there was some, how was this being paid, do you know?
This is, that's that grant that I was talking about earlier. It's a NEMA grant, which is basically FEMA. And that's a $1,532,133.77. So our match that we were required is $170,237.09. So basically, the city's cost will be about roughly, at that million mark, or probably under that. So it covers more than half the cost of it.
Any other questions? Any public input? All right, seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, we're on to item number 17. Need a motion in consideration of an agreement and release with Andy Colvin to transition to a strategic development consultant.
I'd make that motion, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Now we want to further in discussion. I would believe at this point in time, we'll have Tim and Jessica come forward.
Good evening. My name's Tim Brogan with Brogan Lamley Law Firm here in town, and I'm the one who drafted this. So I believe, and as I understand, there's some final contract negotiations or discussions that still needs to occur. And obviously, this is a personnel matter, so it's my recommendation, or I think it would serve the council if we could go into a closed session to finalize these negotiations and then come back out and handle this accordingly. Just so you all know, I think for the public's sake, Jessica Dvorak's here as well. She is the HR director for the city, so if you have any comments regarding.
No, I don't have any other comments. I do think there's further discussion So I do think that's a great idea if that's what you would like to do. Sorry.
I'd make a motion, we move into closed session.
Second.
Hold on. Do I need-
You need to read the
Yeah,
script.
just holding it. We have a motion to go into closed session for the prevention of needless injury to the reputation of individuals to evaluate the job performance of an individual when he has not requested such evaluation take place during a public meeting.
So then we've got,
And now I need a motion
Yep.
for that.
so then we've got Frank
And we have Frank and Sue.
and Sue.
So,
Yep. So then- And then,
now we have to vote.
please vote.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
The motion carried again. This closed session is for the sole purpose to prevent needless injury to the reputation of an individual, to evaluate job performance of an individual when he has not requested such evaluation take place during a public meeting.
Hi. I didn't know if we were waving out behind.
Just read this right now. Well, we're back. So the only item discussed during this closed session was the evaluation of the job performance of an individual when he has not requested such evaluation take place during a public meeting. May I have a motion to come out of closed session?
So move.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
So we,
Discussion.
now we're on to discussion of item number 17, consideration of agreement with release with Andrew into transition to, or Andrew Colvin into transition to a strategic development consultant. So we will be at discussion at this point. We're in a discussion right now. So Tim, if you want to come forward.
Sure. Council, thank you, and thank you for your time and your patience. As you know, I have been contracted as special counsel for the city to work on this contract in regarding the transition of Andy Colvin from the city administrator to that of the special independent contractor, a consultant. And I would tell you this much is that, Mr. Mayor, I know that this was a desire of yours. You had open discussions with Andy in this regard, and that the concept came to both of you quickly. And as anything, the devil's in the details, and then you have to get the lawyers in the way, and then we have to write it down in contract form and things like that. And I think it's mindful for us to remember the city of Norfolk has a little over 200 employees. And what's unique about the city is that of those 200 employees, there are 5 employees who are appointed. And I don't know if everybody understands that, and I think you guys have that understanding that there's 5 employees that are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council. One of those 5 is the city administrator, and there's yet another uniqueness with city government in that you have a situation where the city administrator has a written contract. So over 200 employees are basically governed by the policies and everything of the city of Norfolk, and you have one employee of the 5 who's appointed who has a contract. So we have everybody on board right from the beginning that, listen, Andy has strengths when it comes to development and other things, and he's open to that because of his history and experience. And talking with the mayor, let's make this happen. So to do that, when you're the lawyer, you have to create another contract. And so when you review the contract, you're looking at it, it's a consulting agreement. Well, first component of the title of consulting agreement is that we're moving into Andy as an employee of the city of Norfolk, to Andy, who is an independent contractor, who has a contract for consulting purposes back to the city. So he's no longer an employee of the city. So I think it's mindful to understand that he's no longer an employee. We end the contract, if this is proved tonight, the existing employment agreement. The reason we have consulting agreement and release, it does have a connotation that there's been a resolution or a settlement or something like that. I can tell you that that's not the case, and I know everybody wants the titillation that there's been misconduct or things of that nature. That's not the case. What we want to do is we're shifting. That's been agreed to between the mayor and the Andy. And so we're doing this shift, and so we call it a release because of the fact that I've got to find legally a way to terminate and end the employment agreement. Because if the city council does not approve the consulting agreement and release, the net result is then going to be that city administrator Andy just remains in his role under his current contract. And you're free to do either one. If you don't want to approve this tonight, Andy's fine. He's just going to keep going forward under his existing employment agreement. If you do approve it, then we're going to transition into an independent contract situation. And I appreciate, as you're aware, when we went back into closed session, it was virtually always the city council and myself. The city staffers and Andy's weren't much of a part of that or even present for much of it all. So we have to discuss, and of course I get there's a concern regarding finances. And just so you know what the concept was when we negotiated this agreements, per se, end of one, start of another, was that we wanted to embody the spirit of one when it comes to compensation into the compensation of the second. That was our general concept. Are we going to get it spot on? I don't know if we can accomplish that. Don't think we have. But that was the concept. The guy's the city administrator. He's getting paid so much. The mayor's basically talked with him about, are you open to transitioning? So if he says no, we're done. If he's open to it, here we are. So when we wrote the consulting agreement, what we tried to do was take the compensation component, the dollars and benefits, and move them from that of the employment agreement over into the consulting agreement. But can we do it the same? The answer is no, because you heard me earlier say he's an employee on this hand, and he's moving over to an independent contractor who's not going to get city employee benefits and things of that nature. So we have to start equating those things. Some people might say, listen, Mayor, why don't you just buck up, since he's one of the appointments, like others, and decide in June, because appointments, just so you're aware, happen in the first meeting in June. This year, June 2nd, 2025. So why don't you just wait and just not reappoint him? Well, again, this isn't a situation where we're trying to get rid of Andy, so to speak. We want to get a bang for our buck. And the purpose of this was so that he could help and aid for that of economic development, community development. We're not trying to displace anybody. So then we have the situation is, if you review the existing employment agreement, if Andy doesn't get reappointed or he's let go, he's entitled to a 6-month severance package plus a whole bunch of other benefits. So with that being said, there's a quick reason why the consulting agreement is 6 months long. You, the council, whether you let him go because you don't want him anymore, or you agree with this, it's still gonna be 6 months. So we start looking at dollars and cents. And so when we were back in the back room, we're trying to get this as squared up as we possibly can. And Andy, just to let you know, I'm gonna have a proposition of an amendment to the contract that you have previously seen. And so what we have here is if the mayor basically waited to June 2nd and did not decide to reappoint Andy, I know it's difficult to sit here and listen to this, the total amount of compensation for finishing to June and then 6 months severance from June 2nd plus other benefits to December 2nd, 2025 would equate to roughly $266,000. What I'm going to propose with you is a slight amendment to this under the terms of the consulting agreement. Basically, the total compensation would be roughly $213,000, eyes wide open. So there is a savings one way or the other. Yes, there will be an increased cost, an additional stipend that you're going to have to pay your interim. You know, if the interim is appointed for a period of time, yes, they're in-house, but you're going to have to pay them a little bit more. That's not in here, but that's available, and that is an extra cost. So with that being said, I would entertain any questions that you might have or something I didn't fully explain. Excuse me. So that, because there's probably going to be public comment and or questions, and that's great. One of the things I would say, and just so you know, some of the things that are in Andy's current employment agreement that he has as benefits are not going over into his employment or his consulting agreement at all. So there's some other trade-offs in there. So I would note this, Andy, in Exhibit B, and you've seen Exhibit B prior to tonight's meeting and things of that, one of the things in here was that in Exhibit B, Section D, you have a copy up there, subparagraph B, it talked about 500 hours of accrued sick leave being paid into the Voluntary Employee Beneficiaries Association, or the VEBA fund, for a total amount of $49,000 some change. This council, I'm making this request to delete that. First of all, to understand that our subsequent investigation and research has shown that we can't transfer that into the VEBA, and we do not want to put the VEBA plan for the whole city at risk. And the second thing is that instead of a total of 763 hours, then in paragraph C, it'd be a total of 550 hours for a total compensation that's going to be paid to you from sick time to $54,406. So I think you would have to agree to that if there was going to be a subsequent amendment, if that would happen tonight. But it's also fair for everyone to hear tonight and the public to know of that change, because it was published as one agreement with this change in there. So if you have comments of...
No, I appreciate that, Tim. Thank you. And, everything you've said is accurate. And that's what we discussed, and that's where we're at today. So
Okay.
I'm good with that change to the agreement.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from council members?
Tim, could you just go through and say when his current employment appointment would end and when the official transition would begin?
As far as good question, as part of the agreement, he will remain as city administrator until March 3rd. The reason that happens, and again, that should show you there's no misconduct, because otherwise you would let the guy go. So we keep him in place, and the goal is he remains in his role and helps transition the interim, who's in-house. And then on the day of March 4th, midnight, until September 4th, I believe is the date, is when he's going to be in the role as independent consultant. Great question. I didn't say that, did I? I knew you would clean me up. Other questions?
Tim, do you guys his current contract, when it ends, so June is when his reappointment, then do you have the contract there to show actually what month he would, his contract would be done?
Under his current employment agreement?
Yeah.
Yeah, he would end on, this current employment agreement ends when at the reappointment time on this year would be June 2nd of 2025. So, and it says in here in his current contract that if he's not reappointed at that time, then he gets the 6 months plus a whole bunch of other benefits. Does that answer the question? Lawyers don't always listen well. I'll step down if anybody else. And I know Jessica, as you know, Jessica Dvorak is our HR director, and I've been working with her through this whole process. So she's been very helpful in that regard, as all staff have been. So I'll step away. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any public input at this time? Yeah, short title, please.
Well,
Or just go ahead, yeah.
So first, what we'll need is a motion to amend the agreement by striking out the language in Exhibit B, Section D, that states 500 hours of accrued sick leave will be paid into the Voluntary Employee Beneficiaries Association, VEBA Fund, and replace the language that states 263 additional hours of sick leave paid out as compensation in the total amount of $26,017.80, with 550 hours of sick leave be paid out as compensation in the total amount of $54,406. We just need a motion in a second. You don't have to repeat it.
I would move. I'd second it.
What's that? Did you do it, Jeff?
Or a second,
I'll be one of the people, how's that?
So Jeff makes a motion.
Yep, and I'll
Susan seconds.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second? Clearly we do, right? Okay. And then any further discussion?
I know Andy's not going anywhere. He's still around. He's still in Norfolk. And Andy, I will tell you, thank you for the time that I was able to work with you as my city administrator, as me sitting on council. Thank you for everything.
I suppose I better say something because I'm the one who stirred the rabbit's nest here.
I
go
will,
ahead.
just real fast, what we're currently voting on is just the motion to amend.
Oh, yeah, then go ahead. We'll go with that.
So if you will please vote. Okay, all council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries. So now we're back to the original motion of the agreement.
Okay, now I need a motion and consideration.
We have a
Okay,
motion
I got
and
it.
a
Okay,
second.
so we're back to the
we're good.
original agreement, so now we
Yep.
just need a vote.
Yep,
Go into discussion.
you can, yep. you can
Yeah, we'll go into discussion now, if anybody has anything else to say. Well, also, this has been a little bit of an interesting time for Andy and I. We've had a lot of great discussions, and in those discussions, Andy was nothing but gracious and forthright, and we had, and sees the vision of us moving forward with this and what Andy can do for our community, helping and working with our economic development department and finding more partners within Norfolk for economic development. Not only that, he will also help with some of the current projects that he's been working on currently so that those don't get just stopped and dead-ended, and he can work through that process moving forward. So, but again, Andy's been very gracious and upfront, and we've had a lot of good talks, and I would both agree that this can be a very positive experience for Norfolk moving forward when we get this thing to work out. So anyway, I just want to put that out there, and I don't know, Andy, if you've got any other comments or you're good, or.
No, I think, really the only thing I have to say is that there has been a lot of work done in this community that's involved a lot of people, I think, to bring a lot of success to this community, and a lot of new ideas and a lot of risks that have been taken, a lot of new things we've tried. And, I'll always defer and give a lot of kudos to the city staff and also the elected officials that have done a tremendous amount of work in policy and the projects that we've all accomplished. So I think that, this just opens up some new doors and new opportunities to try to look at some of those things that maybe we can go find to try to keep continuing on the momentum for some of the great things that have happened here. So I think it's a good challenge, and I do appreciate the work of working with the city council and Mayor Clausen as well. I think you said it correctly. We've had great conversations, and it's been great, and I appreciate all the graciousness that everyone's extended to everybody involved. So it's been great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Input from the public at this time? All right. Seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
We are adjourned.